Welcome to Raising Consciousness with me, Lou Burrows, where raising human consciousness happens. On this show, I'm joined by guests to cover a range of topics and have conversations that will raise human consciousness for current and future generations. Now, let's dive into today's show. Welcome back to the show. Today I have Manny Blue who is joining us. Manny and I have collaborated quite a bit since we've been connected. A few years now, I believe, that we've been connected, which is a pleasure, definitely on my part. And as I mentioned, we've collaborated quite a bit, different podcasts, online events and seminars that I have been a part of and hosted. And, today, Manny coming here on Raising Consciousness is just another step kind of in our friendship and in our journey together. So Manny, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And I got to say, I want to congratulate you because, again, we've connected a couple years ago, and I've seen you grow in so many different ways. Through transitioning from the different podcasts, different shows, and you've done an amazing job. I got to applaud you for that.
Thank you so much, man. So, guys, I don't know if you can tell, but I've got a little cold. I think Manny's coming down with something as well. So hopefully our voices are will hold out for this one. But yeah, today we're going to discuss some really important points around mindset ultimately, and hopefully that will help you in your lives. But before we go into that, Manny, would love to hear the 1-2 minute kind of intro of who is Manny, in your own words, and kind of share that with the audience, and then we'll dive into the main meat of the show.
Sure. So I've I've done so many different things. I'm an author, I'm a recording artist, I'm a speaker, I'm a coach. I'm just looking to be able to not just level up myself, but help others also evolve and level up and win in life, regardless of what it is they're trying to accomplish. But I'm just hands-on, just ready to take the world by storm.
Amazing, man. Like, so you mentioned that help, obviously you focusing on yourself and your own personal growth and personal development, but also helping others to level up, the words you use. So what does that mean to you? Like, if we kind of start there, what does leveling up look like to you? What does that mean to you?
See, everybody has an idea of what they want to look like, whether that be physically or mentally, or in a position, whether maybe at a job, at a better position, better pay. Maybe someone's an introvert that's trying to break out of that shell so they can become just an example, and that next level up, right? There's little steps that you got to take in order to get to that level, that next level. It's like playing a video game, right? When you're trying to, if you're a Pokemon fan, right? When you have a Pokemon, when you first get the Pokemon, it's so low level, but as you play the game, the character evolves and it changes, right? It changes form as well. In life, it's the same way for us. Mentally, physically, we can level up and evolve to be able to reach that next level of life, the next step that we want to accomplish. And again, it's for some people, it seems a little harder to achieve, but again, it's all about strategizing and planning and just taking the baby steps to be able to get there.
I love that. So I've been thinking a lot recently around, and I would love to get your thoughts on this. What you've just kind of said there reminded me of it. So I've been thinking a lot recently on how most things that I see in the world, so are like designed to grow, right? Are designed to evolve. So whether this is, and when I say in the world, like I'm actually thinking more specifically around like in nature, it's like, so trees grow, plants grow, and I think it's partly because I've like got, obviously with this show, got a lot more into consciousness and one's spiritual self and kind of all of that stuff. And so, I've kind of become more aware to this, that how everything around us grows and evolves, and yet us as human beings find it sometimes challenging to do that for ourselves. And even though that is actually our nature, right? Our nature is to not stay the same. Our nature is to grow, is to evolve. And I understand why that might be challenging for others, because we also have like that primate part of our mind, right? That wants to protect us and keep us safe. And it's fight and flight, and it's very, yeah, primal, designed to keep us alive. And so anything kind of outside of that. But, we also have this other side of us, this other side, as I was talking about, which is designed to grow and evolve. And obviously with work that you've done in the past and doing now, and hopefully the work that I'm doing kind of, goes towards helping others to realize that for themselves. But yeah, I would just kind of like to get your thoughts on that and kind of speak to that.
Yeah, a lot of times, aside from our mind, our brain automatically want to protecting us. It is sometimes we as people we get caught up with life, right? A lot of times,
Of
and
course.
I've experienced this myself in the past. When working a job sometimes takes so much of your time that you do want to set time to be able to work on yourself, but you're constantly working. People get caught up with life that they forget to work on themselves. And, you know, this is why we need to be very, very, very cautious with our time and who we give our time to. Yeah, if you're working a job and they're working you out, that's fine. But just don't go home and just do nothing for yourself. Even if it's an extra 20 minutes a day that you start with, even if it's 10 minutes a day, get that 10 minutes to start working on that, on what you're looking to achieve, whether it's, reading a book, whether it's, getting your mind in the right direction. Because again, life can get busy. Life can get hectic. And I've noticed that a lot of people get caught off with work and time goes by so fast that you don't realize the time that you're losing. And again, we cannot get time back. So we have to create time by, if we have to wake up a little earlier or go to sleep a little later. And that's what I suggest doing. Because again, I've experienced that where I get caught up with work and I just don't work on what I'm supposed to be working because I'm so caught up focusing on trying to finish this thing. And again, life can get hectic, but we have to be aware, conscious about the time because again, we can never get that time back. Once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah, it's fascinating conversation actually of like how, I don't know if it's kind of why, but like the lack of a consciousness or a lack of awareness kind of on that point, right? On that point of that you mentioned, that when we're just so much in the cycle, right? In the wheel of just, especially for maybe those in like corporate or in the 9 to 5 kind of world, that we're just so kind of caught up in the day to day that I don't think that we consciously stop and actually reflect on life in general, to be honest. But these sorts of things that we're talking about our time, like where are we using, like how am I investing my time? Where am I using my time? And actually, where I'm investing it, where I'm using it, is it meaningful ultimately? That's kind of how I look at it. Is it actually in alignment with my values? Is it in alignment with how I see my life actually unfolding? Because we're so caught up in that hamster wheel. So, like, from your own experience, what are some things that you've done to maybe, or some ideas that you've kind of come up with to help people to start to slow down, to actually start to realize actually I'm investing my time here, but this isn't for me like the most meaningful thing, if that makes sense.
Right. So one thing that I think, well, actually, several things that I personally have done is social media. I've scheduled my
Mhm.
social media time. So where, let's say 12 noon is when I usually post on Instagram. And I don't look at it again till maybe late at night to reply to comments, unless, I have some extra free time. But I've minimized watching TV. I also had to either wake up earlier or go to bed later than I'm supposed to, just to get some of these things done, whether it's, working on myself or working, helping someone else. But yeah, it's just finding creating time can be easy, although some people may say it's not. People are so used to working the 8 hours and coming home, cooking, cleaning, going to bed, and do it again the next day. You have to break out of that. If you're watching Netflix, 2, 3 hours a day, hey, cut it down to maybe 2 hours and take that third hour to work on yourself and slowly, gradually start minimizing your Netflix. I'm not saying not to watch TV shows or not to watch TV at all, but be conscious of your time, even video games. I could easily get addicted to a game, which is why I don't really play games. But if I want to play a game, I schedule my time. I'm going to do, this day 1 hour, and I make sure I set up an alarm because otherwise I'll get sucked into the game and I forget about the world.
Yeah, like, so there's a point you mentioned that I feel like it's kind of like a simple concept to kind of understand of like where am I investing my time and how we can get sucked into it. But I feel like if we aren't, so for me, the time thing actually relates to the values that we hold. Because if we aren't consciously aware on actually what is meaningful to us and what matters to us, then we can get sucked into doing a job that just pays the bills, and that's it. It just pays the bills. It doesn't do anything else, and I believe work should be meaningful and we should be passionate about it.
I
It's
agree.
the same with, maybe like we come home and we're so caught up in then doing things for other people. We don't invest, as we're kind of saying, we don't invest that time in ourselves. And maybe that's working out or exercise, or whether that's, I don't know, just meditation or whatever it is, that time for ourselves, because we haven't consciously thought through on the things that are meaningful to us and that matter to us. It could be, we come home from work and then still do work, but from home, and we neglect our family, but actually subconsciously family does matter to us. And then we wonder why our life is the way it is, or we feel these depression or anxiety or whatever it is, because we aren't actually living in alignment with ourselves. So I think the thing that isn't easy is actually because no one's ever taught us this, right? No one's ever taught us to kind of stop and actually go within and to reflect on what actually matters to us. So yeah, like through your own personal growth journey, like have you found this? And yeah, like for you, what are some of the biggest? What are some of your biggest values that you kind of that live your life by?
Definitely, again, it took me some time, but time management is very crucial for me, especially family time. So one thing that I do and I try to stick to is whenever I'm spending time with the family, I try to stay away from my phone. Unless we're having a family, gathering, everybody taking pictures and videos. If one of my kids want to talk to me, I just put my phone away and I just focus on the conversation because um
Mm, being
it
present,
is
yeah.
right. You want to be present, you want to be in the moment, and it is easy to get, again, our phones, social media, it's part of our lives now, but we have to separate the two, from just the social media life and our real life, our life at home with our friends, our families. And I think the most valuable thing that we can do is be present, be in the moment at that time with whomever that may be, whether it's a friend, girlfriend, boyfriend, or kids. It's just you have to be present. You have to be present. Shut down the whole social media world, or again, you have to be present.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. I think an interesting point you mentioned before was around kind of the Netflix thing, and like I'm the same. I think sometimes it might come across, and I need to do a better job of kind of my own communication. I think I've got improved at it over the last couple of years, especially when I first started my journey, and I was very like pro entrepreneurship and everyone like start their own business like right now around your passion type of thing. And obviously not everyone's cut out for this because it's actually really hard, right? But no, so like my point was like I'm not saying, and obviously you mentioned it as well, not to watch TV or not to watch your favorite show on Netflix. Like I'll be completely honest, most evenings I will tune into something on Netflix, right? However, the difference maybe from me to, I'm not even going to compare myself to somebody else, me to 7 years ago, was then I won't binge watch. I won't watch hours and hours. Literally, I'm watching a series at the moment. It's taking me probably, well, it seems like ages to get to the place where I'm at, because an episode is an hour and I only watch it in half an hour, 40 minute segments, right?
Right.
Most times I finish an episode and I'm only halfway through, and I'm like, oh, that it's interesting. Like for me, it actually makes the episode last longer, which I kind of like actually. So on some subconscious level, I think that's actually quite good, because sometimes otherwise just finish the series like really quickly, and then you're like, now what? So I've kind of found that like as a byproduct, of if an episode's an hour, but I only watch it in half an hour to 40 minute kind of segments, it makes it last longer. And and people might think like, well, why leave an episode halfway through? And it's just like it's not really even really about that. I watch it to at the end of the day, half an hour before I do my evening routine, just to kind of wind down,
Hmm.
disconnect from business, podcasting, and kind of all that sort of stuff, and then go into, like, as I mentioned, like my evening routine. And so, that's what I do now. Obviously, that might not work for everyone, but it's just an example of like how we're actually in control, and we don't necessarily need to allow external things to control us, like if it's social media companies, tech companies, being on Netflix and just binge watching you know series and episodes after each other. And one thing that helped me to kind of start this was, as I mentioned before, becoming more conscious and more aware of, actually, okay, what are the things that I value, but still having that balance of, actually, some people call it entertainment, whatever it is, but I feel like it's just life, that actually I'm not always on the grind. I have a pretty good work-life balance, and even work I don't see as work, because I just see it as life. It's just life,
Right.
So, yeah, I just kind of wanted to speak to that. I feel like I've been speaking for ages, but I just wanted to speak to that, Manny, because, like, it spoke to the point you mentioned before, of hand of like how we don't need to, like, so we're not saying not to do the things that people enjoy. I find it's the same with, like, food or whatever it is. Like, I don't say to people, don't eat your favorite, I don't know, pizza. For that, I say, is there a way you can up level the ingredients, so you're still in some way adding nutrition to your body, so it's not saying not to do these things. For me, it's finding a more better way of doing them, and so it adds to our life, and we can still enjoy it in the moment, if that makes sense.
Right, right. And I totally agree because personally, I've changed the way I eat the past 2.5 months because again, I went off the rails eating a lot of crappy food, and I started to notice difference in my body. I didn't feel energized, and I had to find a way to be able to tackle that and control it. So, sweets is one of my biggest downfall. I love me some cookies and chocolates and candy, but I know it's not healthy for me. But it's too much of it is not healthy for me. Too much of anything is not healthy for anyone. But getting into that routine, I was able to cut down the sugar. I was able to cut down the bread and a few other things. And now, if I have it, is once in a while, maybe a little piece, or just being aware of, like, okay, I don't need to completely not have it, but I don't also need to have it all the time at the big scale that I was eating it. There was no need for that. But you're right, it's just being conscious about all these little things.
Yeah, totally. Like, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. So, I believe you follow Gary V. Yeah, so he talks about, like, how most things kind of in world or in our culture, he calls it red and blue. So, it's either kind of that extreme, right? And he talks about how most of life is in the middle, right? So it's purple. And I talk about it from, and I was sharing this, and I came across that piece of content from him, and I was like, oh, so it's similar between, like, black and white. And actually, life is mostly played in the gray. Like, there's so many things out there that I see where it's like, like, so we're just talking in there about food, right? It's don't eat chocolate at all, or just indulge in it, and it's just like, well, the answer isn't in either of those extremes, it's in the middle.
Right.
It's the same with when we're talking about Netflix, right? It's not to indulging in it and binge watch it and do that constantly with your time, and then 10 years later you're like having all these regrets of, oh shit, I wasted all my 20s or my 30s or whatever it is doing this. And it's not to watch any episodes or your favorite series or enjoy it with friends and family at all. It's in the middle. It's about enjoying life, and it's about the middle. So, yeah, would love to get your thoughts on this kind of concept that I've kind of seen from society in the world that we live in.
Right. And I totally agree. I totally agree because, again, it's not a one size fits all. We all have different lives, different journeys, different dreams. So it's just finding what works for you, and fitting it into your path, right? Again, for me personally, if I do watch Netflix or TV or whatever, I have 1 hour set aside for that. If I don't use it today, that's fine. I roll it over for another time. But I keep aware. It's 1 hour. That's all I have. 60 minutes. If it's another episode, then I have to wait for the next day or whenever I'm able to watch it again or whatever the case may be. But it's being aware of, you know, find what works for you, because what works for me may not work for you, and vice versa. 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes of TV, it helps you wind down, which is perfect. For others, maybe only a few minutes or maybe more. They might need more time, and that's okay. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just knowing that, if you want to spend 3 hours watching Netflix when you could be doing something more productive that's going to help you, get ahead. It comes down to what you want to accomplish, what you want to get out of yourself, right? Because I can say, and I see this happen a lot. I know people personally that, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, they're not doing anything towards that. They spend their time hanging out, partying, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you can't expect to get to point B if you're not doing nothing at all. It's not going to happen. You have
Yeah.
to take the initiative.
No, I like that because I think it's, again, like, I'm not saying for people to not do anything. I think that with these types of conversations and more conversations I'm having on the show and just in life in general and bringing more awareness to, more consciousness to, is like, okay, so this is your life in this human kind of experience. Like, you have one shot, you have one life. For you, decide what's meaningful, live your life in that way. And if one time or whatever it is, you want to binge out on Netflix and maybe, you're doing these things that aren't as productive, that's fine. Then in 10 years' time, when you have these regrets, like, don't complain about it because you had the
Right.
opportunity to 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 change it, right? Because like, we are, all of us as individuals are in control in our, of our own lives and have our own level of kind of personal power to shape our lives and choices and decisions to go where we want. So again, like, I'm not saying to anyone not to do something. I'm saying find what's meaningful to you and then take responsibility if your life isn't going in the direction that you want it to. I mean, like, for me, like, I'm saying this with love and kindness and to others because, sometimes our situations are difficult. It doesn't mean just because they're difficult, we shouldn't we shouldn't realize the power that we have in our own lives and start to claim some of that back, and then start to shape our lives in the direction that I want to go. So responsibility and just like not complaining is actually two big things for me, especially those who maybe right now have more of an opportunity to set out their life path if they were just that little bit more conscious, that little bit more aware on some of the actions and habits and routines and choices and decisions that would get them on that path, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. And one thing that I always tell people is, look, we are in control of ourselves in our actions. Success does not discriminate. Yes, I understand that some people have it harder. They have a harder life, and I get it. But that's still not an excuse because we have access. Most people have access to the internet. They have access to the world of information. So if you're feeling stuck, there's always a way around it. It's a roadblock. That's all it is, the roadblock. Now we have to figure out a way to kind of detour from that roadblock so that we can get back in path. So again, it's all about, at the end of the day, it comes down to that person. Do you really want it? Do you really want to get out of that situation? Do you really want to, get to point B? Because if you do, you can, but you have to do your part. It's at the end
Mm,
of the day, it comes down to us, to me. What am I going to do to get to where I want to be? I can talk about it all day, all day and all night long, but until I don't start taking action, it's not going to happen. And recently I turned down several projects because right now I'm focusing as an entrepreneur, right? We don't have retirement planning. We don't have companies that are putting money into our accounts. We get paid for what we do. So I'm trying to build my personal retirement through real estate. So what I decided to do was take time. The past couple months, I've done is study the real estate market, study the real estate, different areas, different ways to acquire properties without having to meet banks and partners, because at the end of the day, once I don't think my journey will ever end as long as I'm alive, of giving back and helping people. But if I decide to scale down, I don't have to worry about having to work so hard, because now I have other income coming in my way. And real estate is one way that can happen. Have multiple properties where, you can hire a company to manage it, and the money's still flowing in. So I've had to make hard choices of dissolving, partnerships and stuff like that, so that I can really focus, because I need to figure out, hey, how can I make this work for me so that I can get to point B. But again, if I didn't do what make these decisions now, then when? So again, it's we have to find ways around those roadblocks.
Yeah, and I mentioned it before. Like I'm coming to this conversation or just these types of conversations around these sorts of challenges with love, kindness, empathy, etc. Because I realized that I have it amazingly compared to probably you know most of the population. I realized that my thought processes through my own growth and doing everything that I've done and whatever is like if we don't take the responsibility and realize the personal power that we have and start to over time change our habits and decisions and choices that we're making, like what's excuse me, what's the alternative? The alternative that comes to mind is to stay sat where we are and complain.
Hmm.
I don't know how that does any good to the person actually doing the complaining, to the people around them, and ultimately, and this might be going a bit too far, but anyway, to just like the world at large. Like, I don't understand how. So I kind of see it as that, okay, like this situation is shitty. Like you're not in the best place, whatever it is. I'm coming with love, kindness, empathy towards that. It's like that question of what are you going to do about it? Because
Hmm.
I don't see how complaining is going to solve it, is going to move you forward, is going to change it. It's not right. So that's anyway, like that's how I come to the table, like around these conversations and people who have maybe situations or collectively lives aren't ideal or they're in again a shitty situation is like with that I feel like coming with that level of empathy and trying to understand the other person is important, balanced out with that kind of optimism for the future and that question of well, what are you going to do about it? Because again, for me anyway, I don't know how complaining helps.
Right. And I totally agree. And I've experienced this with a lot of people. And again, it's all about being empathetic, but some people need to hear the truth. As far what I mean by that is they need someone to be real, quote unquote, with them. Like, okay, and I've done this before, because I no longer entertain if we've had a conversation and I hear the person complain every time we speak. I get to a point that I would no longer give you my attention, because you're just complaining about the same thing that we spoke about months ago. And I gave you different ideas, suggestions, and you're still not taking them and you're still complaining. Therefore, I would no longer give you my undivided attention. Now I'm going to be a little more firm with you and be like, look, if we're going to have a conversation, I don't want to hear about you complaining about the same thing that we spoke about months and months and months and months ago. It makes no sense. And like you said, the question comes down to what are you going to do about it? See, it, it may be harder for some, but again, you have to make a decision. It's like making up your mindset. You have to make up your mind, and now you have to make a decision. Because complaining, like you said, it's not going to get you anywhere. It's either going to alienate yourself from people, because people are going to get annoyed and not want to talk to you because all you do is complain. And again, complaining is not going to get you anywhere. So you have to make a decision, and you got to just take the action. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy, but again, complaining is going to keep you in the same spot. It's make a decision and take action. That's it.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, there's sometimes like a deeper conversation to have around like actually, or you're not taking action. What are the limiting beliefs that are stopping you from taking that action and kind of going more like exploring that? It does, but even in that, I feel like even having the realization of or the honesty to say, actually, I'm insecure about this. I have this limiting belief about this. In my mind, anyway, that is some sort of action, right? There's some sort of action because you're starting to come to the forefront and be honest with, okay, like, yeah, before I've maybe shied away from, you know, I, from, wanting to build a business because I've had this limiting belief, like I believe this, which is limiting me, or this insecurity, or I don't know. There's, oh, in my health journey, like I want to get fit, but this is holding me back. Or so even that for me is some sort of action rather than just being in that place of just complaining, because at least when you're starting to be more open and honest and authentic and actually saying, this is holding me back, or I actually have these insecurities, which is hard, even for myself, I've actually, over the past 2, 3 years, even year, right? There's still some things in my life that is like, or a bit insecure about that. But through the continued personal growth journey, like being more honest, starting with myself, right? Because that's the most important person, you need to be honest with, is that then you start to just be more open and willing to listen to new ideas and to test new things and to start to move towards the life that you actually want to create. So yeah, in the few minutes that we have left, like, do you have anything to add to that?
So for those that are experiencing, some type of feeling stuck, right? One thing that I suggest doing is writing down what is stopping me, and write down everything that you think is stopping you. In most cases, it's ourselves, but someone might be experiencing something in life that may be an obstacle. Write down what you feel is stopping you, and then write the solution. Write the problem, then write the solution. What can help you overcome that obstacle that's stopping you? And then once you realize that, then now you can it'll be a little easier for you to figure out how to go around that obstacle, right? It's like if you were coming across a tree, okay, you can go right or you can go left in order to go around that tree, right? The same thing comes, we can do with our lives, with our goals and our dreams. What's stopping me? What's the problem? What's stopping me? What's the solution? Maybe several different options, and then figuring it out and then taking the action. Okay, if you go right and it didn't work out, okay, go now, come back and go left, because the left, either way is going to work. One way is going to work. It's just we have to take the initiative to take the step, take the proper step to get it done. A lot of times, again, it's all in our mind. And it's again limiting beliefs. How we grew up, maybe an advice that was passed down through a family generations before. But we live in a different world today. We live in a different life. When it comes to information, the internet. I mean, you have Google, you have YouTube. You can find so many resources on the internet. I don't think the resources should be a problem in today's today in general. As far as connections, I mean, you can utilize social media to be able to reach out to other people that are doing something similar to what you want to do. But again, if you're feeling stuck, write down why you feel stuck, and then write down several solutions and just take the action, because y- you can achieve what you want. It's just a matter of taking action, making a decision, and taking action. At the end of the day, it's all about making a decision.
Yeah, I like that, man. It kind of reminds me of something I seen once of like that we have everything at our fingertips, to start to move towards creating the meaningful and purposeful life that I believe life should be all about, really. So, and especially today with all the resources that we have. So, Manny, thank you so much for coming on to Raising Consciousness and sharing your wisdom. Hopefully, this conversation has added somewhat to helping people to raise their own level of awareness on things that have actually, what they can do to start to move towards taking action in their own lives and creating the life that that they desire ultimately. In the kind of minute or so we have left, where can people find you online if they want to learn more about what you do, connect with you, and yeah, kind of see what Manny is up to?
Yeah, well, my official website is actually under construction right now, but it should be up and running in the next couple months. But I'm very actively on Instagram on Manny Blue Official, and also on Facebook, who is Manny Blue, Twitter, Manny Blue. But mainly, yeah, definitely you can catch me on Instagram. If you have any questions, you need to, any suggestions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be more than glad to help out.
Awesome. I will include all the links down below. And yeah, when your website is back up and running, send that over. I'll also include that. And yeah, just again, a massive thank you for coming on to the show today. And guys, I will be back next week with another interview session. So I look forward to seeing you and talking to you all then.
And for more after today's show, be sure to head on over to raisingconsciousness.show to get all of the show notes, transcriptions, videos for each episode, and a hell of a lot more. And if you got value from this episode, found it insightful, or learned a thing or two, please leave a review where you can let everyone know that this show is worth checking out. I appreciate you so much. You'll be hearing from me in the next episode.